If you are sometimes confused in your relationships, then this should interest you. It's the shocking truth and how a partner's reaction can show so much. Hi, I'm Will Perry and I help make the complex psychological concepts simple. We need to take action to create change. Now, I'm not clinically trained, but I worked at the BBC as executive coach since 2001. I was a head of action learning, which is a peer learning process. But for the last 13 years, I've been focused on this question of what's wrong with me? Why am I different? Why do I get stuck? And it's all around that shadow side that we don't see. And how I help people, I work with them exclusive one-to-one, literally one person at a time. The group coaching, the action learning aspect, one to a few or one to many through the online program, but also free content on here and free programs. Find out more, links around here, get engaged and share now today's content. So I've done that. That's a bit clunky, but I'll improve that as I go along. But I kind of wanted to position kind of how I work and where I work, who I work with. So today's, do you know this one? Here's Johnny. This always makes me smile. It's me and my sister. We're only, you might know, she died in the 2004 tsunami. We were very close, a year and 9 days apart, and when we were smaller, playing very physical play, she'd pin me down and would either be a werewolf on me, like getting really close, and you know, when you something so funny you kind of get scared with it. It was like, you know, she'd pin me down and do a werewolf and kind of licking my face all over my face, which is funny. I do it with my daughter and she loves it. Just like, but I have to know when to back off, you know. Or she'd do, you know, we both later on, when we saw this program, this became a kind of replacement of that, which is, here's Johnny, you know, going in your face and getting too close and making you giggle. So that image has a strong connection for us, and that's part. I want to sort of share the story where that fits in, because it fits in with a card that I created for my sister. Not created, sorry. I bought a card, and guess what it had on it? It had the "Here's Johnny" picture. So it was going back just before her death. My wife and I had a baby. There was just Freddie was a couple of months old. And my sister was ill in bed at home, recovering from a hysterectomy. She didn't want kids. But she had a history of difficulties there, and she elected for this hysterectomy, but had complications with it as well, which was a terrible thing. We'd normally see her every weekend, her and her husband, and very close, and they were about an hour away, and you know, we were really close. And when she was ill, of course, what I wanted to do is jump in the car and go and see her. But my relationship with her, my sister, was waning a little bit, because the kind of relationship here was difficult. I had a second, or this was my second child, from a different marriage, but it was my wife's first child, so you can understand there's going to be a difference there. You know, as a second parent, you're so much more confident, and I had that, and you know, I was putting it down to postnatal depression, but actually I saw bigger patterns than that. But that there was this real insecurity. I wasn't working at the time. I was looking for a job because I'd left the BBC, but I hadn't found the new job. Took a few months, did find a new job and everything, but in that period, it was a luxury to be able to be at home and with the baby. Yet I found myself being criticised for being too good with the baby, but criticised for going away and doing something, i.e. going away in that case to see my sister. And my sister didn't understand the dynamics of everything that was going on here. So you know, I didn't go and see her, and that was a really difficult thing for me, and for me it was difficult for her. She couldn't understand, you know, why I was being like that, and it was difficult that I was in that situation where it's like, you know, I wasn't actually, I wanted to go and see my sister, but I wasn't. I was compromising myself. I was compromising my relationship with my sister, and that hurt. So I think she was a bit grumpy with me for a while on I can't remember exactly, but on the old telephones and things like that, bit grumpy with me. So what I did, I sent this card And I said, look, really sorry. I hope you're, feeling better now. I'm really sorry. My wife's, been struggling with, me leaving. Really difficult. I can't leave the house. I can't leave the child. I can't, I didn't share the bit about I'm being criticised for being too good, because I didn't want to admit that. I was a bit uncomfortable with that. It's like, I didn't want to sort of share too much. But what I did share was that I can't get away and it's really difficult. And she wrote back and said she was really sorry. But that card was, it said so much more, because it was the here's Johnny. It was a real connecting, and I knew she'd like it and everything. And she wrote back and was, oh my God, I didn't realise, and I'm so sorry, and bless. So I made good on that connection, and then it was just a month later that she thought, when she was better, she thought, bugger it, put it on the old credit card, and went to Thailand on a diving holiday, because she hadn't been to the west side of Thailand, and went and did that. And then the rest is history, because the massive wave that came in, the tsunami. I've got it tattooed on my arm. The that's meant to be a wave. I won't even bother doing it. The tsunami that came, and she was in one of the worst hit places in Thailand, in Khao Lak, right on the beachfront bungalow, so that was devastating, of course. And her husband was washed a kilometre inland and ended up at the top of a tree naked, atop of a palm tree, which is shocking and awful. But he survived. My dad went out there, paid for by the government, which was awesome support. I was down with my mum, searching for DNA of all things, which is another story, which is in itself shocking. And it wasn't until a few months later that her body was formally identified with the DNA. And we got, again, the government paid for us to go out there, and we did a cremation out there, which it was all as lovely as those sort of things can be. And every step of the way, what I was noticing was this pattern, which was just compounding and becoming more and more exaggerated. So at the point of going down to Cornwall, why do you have to go? Why do this holding on to onto me, not letting go, not letting me out of the house? And it became quite a forceful thing, quite a difficult thing to pull away from. And then going down to my sister's house after that, when we after the cremation, and a little while after, because obviously her husband's mourning at that point, very much so, going down to the house, and it was again this pull of, why are you going there, but it was such an emotional thing for me to go into my sister's house knowing that she was dead, she'd gone, and yet here's her house that she put so much love into and so much work into, and here's and right by the back door, into where her kitchen was, she had her pink Smeg fridge, and I've got my blue Smeg fridge over there. We both love them, and pinned on the front of it was, guess what? Was my card, my here's Johnny, which both was painful but lovely, because what I'd done was repair that relationship, and I think I would have been faced with so much more guilt and questions and difficulty if I hadn't have done that, just with that simple card. If I hadn't have done that, I think I would have had a much more difficult time. But my sister obviously appreciated that. She sent a lovely card back and all that sort of thing. And there it was, pinned on the front of it. And I took it off, actually, so I've got that with me, which is a lovely thing to me. And the reason I'm sharing this is because I was kind of in that bubble of not questioning too much. But when this all happened, it really made me question what's going on with this pattern. With this pattern of not letting me go, yet being criticised for being too good, and I think in these things you get two options. You can either, it's a really difficult thing that happens. So you either get, I think you have two options. The first one is to do nothing. So that's kind of put a lid on it, uh, put a lid on it, and close it off. Just put it down to your failings or something like that, and just carry on and get through it, and not think too much about it. Or option two is open a can of worms. uh, yeah, can of worms. No, that's explicit what it is. You don't need me to put that, can of worms. So explore. So exploring things leads is the work I reference a lot, which is around the shadow side. So this area here, what you're unaware of, what you avoid, what you think is negative, but actually can very often be positive once you explore it and understand it, embrace it into your conscious side, rather than it just being in kind of a free spirit in your a negative free spirit in your subconscious. So once you can integrate these things, the subconscious into the conscious, the negative aspects, or what you think is, this is what we fear almost about ourselves. That may be aspects that have been criticized in the past, things we believe about ourselves that are negative, and that for me is around self-esteem as well, very much. Once we explore these areas, that's when we can embrace it, and that's when we get the gifts, the positive of there. They are gifts, but we don't see them as gifts at all. The shadow side that's the whole can of worm. That's the whole self-development journey for me, and that of course leads to empowerment to a huge degree. It's meant to be in its power. So empowerment, but it only comes through option number two. Option one, putting a lid on it, doesn't really work. But you could live a whole life like that, just keeping a lid on it, managing to keep a lid on it. But at some time it's going to break and spill out, and then you're just managing and containing a spill. But for me, it was really interesting to notice what the impact of that was. I guess there are two elements in there. The first one, the first one is very much around the relationship, about repairing relationships where they're good. So where you have a good relationship, don't stew on stuff too long. Don't, make sure you repair it. Because, like I say, that I'm sure I'm very thankful I repaired my relationship with that simple element, that simple thing of that card, because it had that meaning for us, that here's Johnny, I know just the image would have made us smile, and there she had it on a fridge. But the second and most important thing and most difficult thing, not important, the more challenging thing than repairing a good relationship, is to explore the deeper patterns that might be going on, to explore what is there. There's something you don't want to see, the shadow side, the stuff that seems like out of kilter, you're not sure about, that confuses you, you can either do something or do nothing, and I'd much more on the side of do something, though it is more difficult, and by God it is more difficult. Yet there's steps you can take, and there's the support you can get, and all that sort of thing. But it's definitely worth doing. It does lead to realizations that give you empowerment. So my invitation to you is to explore what confusion you've had, what experience of confusion have you had in your relationships. Also, where are you, if you've got good relationships that they're out of kilter, that you can repair, put them back into balance. But if you've got any areas where you kind of feel confused about something because it's just so much out of balance, out of kilter, it seems so odd, and you can't win either way, and maybe it's something that happened a while ago and it keeps coming back up, almost like a memory that keeps just ping ping, and it's like, why is that coming back to me? I've got quite a few, and it's like each time I've solved them in the past, it's like, oh my God, that makes so much sense to me. And it's always around my shadow side. It's always around this element where we don't want to explore it, because we think there's negative stuff in there, but actually that leads to, or that is the path to empowerment. So what moments have you experienced confusion, or what memories keep popping up where you can't answer, but they're there, unanswered questions? Because that's where we need to work. I hope you find that interesting. I'd love to hear your comments on that, your views on that. And yeah, I hope you have an awesome rest of the day. Speak to you soon. Lots of love, boyo. Bye-bye.